Hello, welcome to episode 83 of the Single Malt Strategy Podcast. My name is Finnish Jager, and today I'm joined by Tortuga Power and no one else. It's just him and I here today.
Thank God.
Yeah, some peace and quiet.
Down with the rest.
We're going to be going over our top 4 games of 2024, and we actually do have the Historical Gamer and Wolfpack 345 here, so...
Well, it's good me and THG are getting introduced because the lack of charisma with just the two of you, without us, it'd be horrible. Least entertaining podcast ever, I'm sure.
I highly doubt that.
Come on, THG, you gotta say something.
Tortuga and I would have some intellectual conversations and some jokes. Remember last episode where Tortuga made a joke and neither of you caught on to it, and I was the only one who did?
Yeah, sorry, I was probably eating something.
I mean, it's pretty bad. I don't know that I could say it's the worst ever, Wolf.
All right, let's get started with this thing. So we're gonna go over our top 3 games of 2024 upcoming, and I guess we'll just start with Tortuga. What's your number 3 on the list?
Okay, let's go with Infection Free Zone. Infection Free Zone, though, it looks very cool. It's a zombie survival game, and wait a second, no, it's not another open world first-person survival one. It's one where you actually manage a colony, and I guess that's also been done 1,000 different ways. I guess the catch with this game is that they use this map software that you can play in your actual city. It's almost like a Microsoft Flight Simulator where you can fly,
I've heard of this game, yeah.
And I watched Quill18 playing it, and it was very good for like an alpha playthrough. So what I've come to notice, this is a general trend, is games that are like polished and like alpha and like going to early release. I find that these are also the games that end up being like the best. Like go figure, quality development carries forward. But anyway, Infection Free Zone is my number 3. I guess it's really about a colony. It's like a colony game where you take over buildings in real world cities, and then you set up a research lab in one of them. You set up ammunition factory in another, and you build barricades between buildings like on streets to choke point the zombies. It's almost like real world map version of their Billions. And I just came up with that. I'm not sure. It might not be a perfect fit, but it's something along those lines. Very cool, I think.
You like those zombie games because you play We Are Billions and then that like Cataclysm Dark Days Ahead, right?
Yeah, plenty of zombie games. 7 Days to Die was the first person version of that. I get excited about the colony aspect of this one. It could be like anything coming after you besides zombies. Zombies just end up being a pretty good bad guy. But let's spill over to somebody else. I'm going to pick Historical Gamer.
What would my number 3 be?
You already did a video on this, right? So you just pull from your video list.
I will say from my list that I made in my video, at least one game on that list has come out that I would not put back on that list. But that's not for this video.
Same here. By the way, let me just say it. My number 3 was going to be Dominion 6, and then it was released. And I saw that it was not that great, and I took it off.
Okay. By the time this is airing, it'll be late February. So we are...
Mid-February.
Our top list of 2024 when we're, 1/6 of the way through the year? Anyway, my number 3, Field of Glory Kingdoms. Did any of you play Field of Glory Empires? I feel like you did, Tortuga.
Oh, yeah, I played it.
So Field of Glory Kingdoms is basically a grand strategy game that takes place in the medieval era. It's made by AJOD, or will be made by AJOD, published by Matrix and Slytherin Games. And it is sort of your prototypical, or should be sort of your prototypical grand strategy medieval game, with the exception that it is integrated with the Field of Glory 2 engine. So, unlike a Paradox game where you're playing Crusader Kings and two armies collide, the game doesn't focus on tactical combat. Essentially, Crusader Kings, there is no tactical combat. Armies meet, and then you've kind of got a high-level resolution of the battle. And what the game is really about in Crusader Kings' case is managing your dynasty and sort of, spreading your... God.
I know what you're about to say. I was like,
Spreading your family. That's probably the safe way to say it. Across.
Wait, Field of Glory Kingdoms is basically it's Total War. It's almost like Grognard version of Total War, but it's the same thing. You got the turn-based strategy, and then you can, if you have the module. Yeah, I'll let you continue. But it's I think the best way of describing it is it's medieval Total War, but done by like a Grognard company.
With like the battle resolution is more like a tabletop war game resolution as opposed to like a real-time
Yeah.
arcadey kind of game. And so the battles take a lot longer if you do it that way. But it's an optional thing. You don't have to do it that way, to your point. Like you can just resolve everything on the strategic map, build up your empires, build up your kingdoms on the strategic map. They did this previously with Field of Glory Empires. That game looked at sort of the Roman Republic, the rise of the Roman Empire, if you will, that era of history, which frankly, there haven't been that many games in that era, but I'm bored with that era. The medieval times, however, that interests me. And so the fact that they're going to be sort of doing the same approach and looking at the medieval era, I think is really cool. I think I've wanted a medieval 3 Total War for a good long while, along with a lot of other people. Maybe this is the closest we're going to get to it for a while. But I'm really excited about it, and it's definitely on my top 3 list of games coming out, hopefully in 2024. They haven't announced a date yet, but they announced this thing like 2 years ago, I think. It's been sort of out there in the ether for a while, and they periodically release status updates and things like that. So I'm optimistic that it'll come out at some point this year.
Yeah, I'm surprised that you said, because I'm actually pessimistic about it being released this year. I'm pretty pessimistic about all things being released on time, because I think...
What?
I mean, you didn't think that Ultimate General American Revolution would get released in 2023, and it did, so...
Yeah, I mean, it's the exception which proves the rule.
That should be on my list, too.
I will say you said this is a medieval times game.
Medieval times.
Only medieval times I'm interested in is one where I can get a turkey leg.
Yeah, the restaurant.
Hell yeah, brother.
So...
Just down the street from me. Let's go.
Yeah. Where you can watch some jousting or something.
Go Green Knight, go.
I'm just kidding. That does sound interesting.
If I can't see violence while I'm eating a turkey leg, I'm not in. So
Wolf, I almost look at it. I'm gonna make a bold statement here. I don't think it's gonna be a game that you'd enjoy.
It looks really. I've seen Field of Glory, like what, Empires? Is that the one you were discussing? And it looks kind of clunky.
I just can't believe you accepted it so willingly.
I mean, that's
all right.
That's fine. I'm not going to fight that. I'm not. You probably know better than I do, frankly.
Yeah, I mentioned it only because I think it's good for the listeners to get like perspective. I think this will be pretty grognardy. It won't have all the sexy bells and whistles of a real Total War game.
I mean, I will say, as far as like Total War-esque game, like I loved Ultimate General Civil War. Like that was awesome.
Yeah, I think, Field of Glory is going to be a bit more... I think it is... I would compare it to a tabletop game. Not just the tactical resolution of Field of Glory 2, but I also think at the strategic level, like in its nature, it's more of a tabletop game than it is sort of a fast pace. Like
I literally play tabletop games in my free time.
Yeah.
So maybe I would like it. Maybe I'll look into it. Thank you, THG, for bringing this to my attention.
You've got him hooked.
Got him.
God, I love this podcast.
All right, well, let's Wolf, why don't you go with your number?
Okay, so my number 3. I mean, I got a couple of games here.
That's what a top 3 list is.
Yeah, I got
several.
I got quite a few.
I got about 3 games on my list.
I got about 3 games here. Yeah, gosh. Really shocking concept, I know. My number 3 position, and I do think we'll see something from it this year, is the new Isle 2 project. They are going to a new engine. It's going to be a new platform, and it looks like they're going to Korea.
Is that official? Because I swear I saw someone commenting about that it was going to be Korea, and then I saw someone else saying oh, that's a myth. Nothing's been confirmed yet. That's not.
They haven't confirmed it, but they've shown a Yak 3, a B-29, and a late war Corsair, and you rub a couple of brain cells together, and you're like, huh, I wonder what theater. And they showed an Isle 10. Yeah, so you just rub 2.5, 1 if you just got it, you really work it hard.
I've never heard of the Korean War.
I mean, it could be ILWW3.
Okay, yeah, I mean they could do something like that. I think that would be goofy and not smart. I firmly believe it's going to be Korea, and if it's not Korea, I'll eat my shorts, okay?
He's on the record.
Yeah, I'm on the record saying I'll eat my shorts. But yeah, I think the Korean War is an awesome setting for a flight sim. I think it's severely underrepresented in modern flight simming. And it's that cool, jet age meets, old World War II weaponry instead of, shooting missiles and stuff. It's awesome. It's cool. MiG-15, Saber, Panther.
P-51.
Yeah, and you got Mustangs, Corsairs, all that good stuff. And they could improve on it and add carrier ops. Of course, I'm getting carried away with all that. I mean, I'm excited to have the Korean War in a flight sim, hopefully. Of course, it could be some made-up conflict.
It seems unlikely.
That does seem unlikely. That would be way out of left field. And I think they did say it was going to be historical anyway, but...
Did they operate IL-2s in Korea?
IL-10s, yeah.
Is the 10 just a variant of the 2?
Yeah, it's a later version of it. It saw service during World War II, later in the war.
Who's making that Pacific flight sim? I don't know if I've spoiled like what's on your list, but I was thinking about that.
I didn't put that on my list, but Jason Williams, the old lead producer of the IL-2 series, left the IL-2 team. And they started his own team. He's got a team together, and they were working on a game called Combat Pilot, and that is set during the Battle of Midway. And they've been showing off like assets, like guns. They've been working on a Wildcat and a Zero. So we are getting some Pacific Theater stuff. DCS is expanding into the Pacific as well with quite a few things. So yeah, it should be an exciting year for flight sims, hopefully. But yeah, that's my number 3. New IL-2 Korea project, whatever it will be called. I'm sure we'll see something announced soonish.
That's back to you, Finnish.
All right, my number 3, I was kind of struggling to think of something, and I was just browsing, Steam, and I picked a game that I think I've talked with Wolf about, Silent Depth 2 Pacific. So it's going to be like a sub-sim light kind of game. I know, Wolf, you described it kind of like Silent Hunter 2 kind of detail.
Yeah, that's kind of what it looked like to me.
I think it has potential. I guess I think I saw it's being listed, developed, and published by Micropose, and I guess, I'm actually kind of worried about that with the stuff that Micropose is putting out. Maybe that's a hot take, but I just feel underwhelmed with Micropose's releases lately.
Well, I do know the developer made, obviously, Silent Depth, the first one, and I'm pretty sure it was also a mobile game, kind of like what Atlantic Fleet or whatnot did. And it seemed like it was a spiritual successor to Silent Service 2, in a way, with the way you traveled across the map and stuff, like that sort of thing. But yeah, I'm interested to see Silent Depth 2. It looks like the graphics, they look good to me, and I'm just curious to see how sim light it will be, and if it'll be moddable. That'd be cool.
I don't want to say I don't have like high expectations. I just am like, whatever happens, and I'll see how it turns out. But it's nice to see we have a US Pacific sub game in the works by somebody, so that's kind of why I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think we're back to you, Tortuga, right?
Okay, well then, let's get on with it. I'm once again going to put on my shill hat and embrace the inner hooded horse.
I think I know what you're going to pick.
For number 2, it's Espiocracy.
This is my number 2 as well.
I think it's everyone's number 2, right? In the world.
Mm-hmm.
Tiashi, is it your number 2?
Yeah, second best, not great, not terrible.
But it made the list.
I mean, a list of 3, though. It's in the middle, so it's...
It's not a list of 3, it's a list of every game that's coming out this year, the top 3.
Yeah.
Unless you only looked at 3 games. You just ranked the first 3 games you looked at.
It was the first 3 I saw. I searched Wargames coming in 2024, and I just grabbed the first 3 that came up with the letter E. It was number 2 that came up alphabetically.
The credibility of this thing just keeps going downhill.
Okay, here's just a question: Is Hooded Horse also publishing Manor Lords?
Yes, is
that your number?
We'll get to that.
Okay, we're getting to that.
Spoiler.
Okay,
yeah.
Gosh.
Sorry,
Come on.
But
I didn't.
Damn it, Wolf.
Was Hooded Horse your number 3 as well? Did I miss that?
Listen, we need to start this episode. You know how when like someone is on a financial show and they've got a disclaimer like, "Oh, I own this company's stock." Tortuga, did you invest in Hooded Horse? Because every other day it's like, "Oh my God, Hooded Horse, so good, so good."
They're based in Dallas. Wolf and I should go visit their
No way.
headquarters or something. Yeah, they're like in...
Are you serious?
I don't know, Carrollton or something.
I just want to let everyone know that my number 3 game was not a Hooded Horse title.
Okay, yeah.
And I think they are releasing other games, so...
But do you want to talk about it a little bit, Tortuga?
Yeah, Tortuga. Spill the bean. What's this game about? He didn't even. He's not even talking about the. We're not even talking about the one he said.
Espiocracy. What more do you want to know? What Espiocracy? It's like an espionage.
It's by Hooded Horse, so it's on the
grand
list.
strategy game. Looks like Hearts of Iron 2, in my opinion. It's got that grand strategy vibe, but it's got this espionage side to it. It's historical. I don't know. What do you want from me?
Okay, well, I just want to let the viewers know you can buy the Hooded Horse Publisher Package for $144 on Steam.
Wow.
And it includes 9 Hooded Horse games.
Okay. So this game is being developed by Ex Vivo Studios. Don't know anything about them. It's called Espiocracy, and it is an espionage grand strategy game. So basically, the way I'm reading this, Tortuga, you don't run a country, you run an intelligence agency.
Yeah, spy agency of one of 74 playable countries.
Oh, that actually sounds awesome.
I can read the Steam description too.
My God, the insults.
Take charge of the intelligence agency of your choice as the Cold War begins.
You're taking charge of Tortuga's segment.
Sorry, I mean, it's all of our segment. We all said it was number 2.
No, I didn't. But are they historical intelligence agencies? Or do you make your own?
I'll have to go and look it up again, but when I looked at this about 3 months ago and put it on my list even then, you're basically like an intelligence player during the Cold War.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, so I mean, I was already excited by the fact that if Hooded Horse put their money in this game, I'm already in. Just sign me up.
No, that actually does sound really cool, though. Like running KGB or whatever.
Yeah, I like how the game looks, how they made the map kind of like a 2D kind of top-down view. I guess I'm just tired of the 3D maps that we see in some of these other games, like Paradox games.
100% agree. 100% agree. I really, when I saw the game, it just looks polished.
Mm-hmm.
I'm basically trusting my gut on this. I haven't invested a lot of time in looking up the details of this game, and I did a disservice to our listeners by not doing that. But I just have a gut feeling, and I really trust my gut. I rely on it for a lot of things in life besides video gaming. Mm-hmm. No, truly. I mean, in my workplace, I have to just make gut calls. And anyway, so my gut call is Espiocracy is going to be a good game. And that's why I have it at number 2.
I hope you have better explanations to your boss to why you did something. It was like, I don't know, my gut just told me so. I had a good feeling.
I ate a burrito this morning. My gut was acting up and it told me what to do. Yeah. No, I can feel that.
Burrito Supreme from Taco Bell.
Well, why do you guys have it on your list? You have it number 2?
Yeah, this is my number 2. Yeah, for real.
So, defend yourself, quit yourself accordingly if you guys are...
Yeah, I think this has a game. It's a game to have a ton of potential. Like I'm really excited for this too. I'm interested to see how much kind of alt history you can get out of this game. Like, what if you could even go up to like the start of World War III or something because your spy agency is really messed up. So I think this game has a ton of potential. I'm really looking forward to this, and I have faith in Hooded Horse. I guess I'm on the Tortuga bandwagon here with his opinion, but I think that they're gonna produce a quality game.
They haven't let us down.
I'll play as Finland for the first playthrough.
I'm going East Germany Stasi.
Oh, that's a good one.
You would.
Yeah.
You got like an East German hat or something, don't you? Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm really excited about this because there's not a lot of there's not a lot of Cold War games, but like all these grand strategy games, it's always sort of like you're the big guy and you're in charge of everything. And this game, even like, at least within the description, it even admits like, military conflict, not common in this era. It's all about asymmetry. It's all about sort of espionage and whatnot. And obviously you're running an espionage agency. But I feel like we don't really see games like this where it's not about invading and directly taking over, at least initially. It's about sort of all the behind the scenes stuff that kind of goes into, spy thrillers and all the other crap and the histories of the era. And I think it's hard for games to do espionage well. Maybe in like a story setting, you can do it like a first person, but I think it's hard to do it well in a grand strategy thing where people are so conditioned to paint the map a color. I am really curious to see how they approach it because I can't think of another game that we've had like this. There have been games that have been adjacent to it. Like I think Terminal Conflict from a couple of years ago kind of tried to have espionage elements, but it was still kind of like a paint the map kind of game. Way back in the day, you had games like Balance of Power made in the early 90s that were about influencing other countries and getting them to your side of the Cold War, but it was still much more direct sort of influence rather than what an espionage agency would do. The description says you've got 34 different types of espionage operations, which seems like a pretty big amount. Spreading ideology via propaganda, assassinations, developing your own cadre of operatives. Like all of this just sounds really good Tom Clancy kind of stuff before the world went crazy.
The Americans, the game.
I'm ready for this, and it has co-op. I'm in PvP apparently. I'm ready to just backstab y'all. It's going to be great. I love just playing games and being a little conniving goblin, like when we play CK.
It says some of the agents or actors can include historically accurate individuals like celebrities, inventors, and authors. Organizations like political parties, trade unions, and guerrilla forces.
Operatives within your agency interact with one another and can create subgroups, potentially introducing political motivations into your agency.
God damn it, we're just reading the Steam page.
No, that's why I just... Look, at people, if you want to learn more about this, go and check it out on Steam, because that's all we're doing here is just reading the Steam's description. One thing I want to say about it is part of the reason why I like the idea of a espionage-driven game is because I feel like espionage is done very poorly in a lot of grand strategy games as a like supplemental or like side element. Like people shoehorn it in. So I almost always dislike espionage as like a additional game component in Civilization and Hearts of Iron and all those things. Espionage is my least favorite part. And then it's a little weird. Why am I choosing this? I don't like espionage. No, I just want to see espionage done as the focus because I feel like the gameplay is going to be very different. So
yeah, I mean, think about like even like Total War, right? Like very different kind of a game, but like espionage is you've got a little character who's a spy and they go around and they give you a little bit of information about what's on the map, but like it's never central to the games. It's basically just maybe a little bit of fog of war gets erased. Maybe you can try and assassinate someone. It's always done poorly, and I agree with you entirely. But I agree with you, Tortuga. Espionage is always done poorly, and like that's kind of what I was talking about with like Balance of Power and even those other games that kind of tried to delve into this era a little bit. It was always big government sort of military is the central focus and how things are influenced, and never sort of the stuff in the shadows. At least it was never designed for that. So I'm excited to see how this plays out.
All right, next.
Yeah, time to move on.
Wolf, save us.
Probably on my previous list, but my number 2 is Modern Naval Warfare, baby. Been talking about this game for 3 years now. Modern subsim, Virginia-class submarine. Hopefully we see something from it this year. It looks like a spiritual successor to Dangerous Waters. And they're getting published by Suzerain now, and they've been doing occasional press things, so... it looks like they're making steady progress. They were delayed a little bit because they got like actual military contracts. So
yeah, I was just gonna ask that if they got something like that.
Yeah, so that's kind of why things were pushed back a bit. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be awesome to have a modern study sim or study level sim and a Virginia class submarine.
How do you interpret the fact that they got picked up with the military contracts? Because on the one hand, somebody might say, okay, that's a good sign because the military is interested. But on the other hand, you might see that their focus goes away from like gameplay or like the non-military.
I guess I'm not too worried about it. I think like DCS World, they have a military contract side of their business. Sonalist, which did Dangerous Waters and Subcommand and stuff. They had like military contracts, I believe, as well.
And I guess what is it? Command Modern Operations, Naval Operations, whatever it's called.
Yeah, I'm not too. It doesn't really worry me, I guess. If anything, I believe in them. I've talked to the devs quite a bit. I don't know. I have faith.
This guy has connections.
Hopefully it's not misplaced. Yeah, I mean, I played like the very early demo. You can check it out on my YouTube channel. It's still up there. If you want to see a very early like just concept of what the sim was supposed to, their vision was when they were trying to get funding.
This podcast is deeply compromised. We got Tortuga over there on the Hooded Horse payroll. We got Wolf over here on the Modern Warfare Naval Best Friends list.
Okay, you said the name wrong. Modern Naval Warfare. Please get it right in my presence. Thank you.
What did I say?
I don't know. You had a stroke, I think.
Warfare Naval Modern.
Submarine game.
The submarine game. Oh, correct me if I'm wrong, THG, but didn't you bring up Modern Naval Warfare in your top 10 most anticipated games of 2024 video?
Yeah, I don't keep saying the same games over and over, though.
Okay, got it. Well, yeah, I'm looking forward to that one. That's my number 2.
Whew, man. This is a fun podcast to be a part of.
I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be an asshole.
I love our team.
I love this work environment so much.
Okay, let's move on to number 1 then. No, wait. Finnish, I just want to confirm yours, number 2, was also Espiocracy?
Yeah, yep, it is.
Number 1 for me is Manor Lord. It was number 1 last year, but there's a very official release quickly approaching. So it's definitely going to be out this year.
By Hooded Horse?
Yeah. You know, there was a time, there was a day and age when everything Blizzard published was just gold. And I feel like that's kind of how, I mean, they were a development.
We're living in it.
Yeah, they're recent stuff, man. Diablo 4?
The Diablo 2 remaster was banging. I will say that. That was fun.
Look, that one was all right, but I don't think that their other stuff has been very good. Well, anyway, Manor Lords, it is a colony building game predominantly, but it does have military elements. You can raise forces and defend I never know whether it's a colony builder or a city builder. I don't really know how to distinguish between the two, but it's one of those. It's medieval era. So you have your manor.
And you get to be a lord.
Oh, God.
Roll credits.
Where's my Steam page?
The Steam page does say City Builder for what it's worth.
Yeah, I know, but okay, fine, City Builder. But
The website says release on April 26th.
It reminds me a little bit, I didn't play the demo, but I think what's interesting is that it's a city builder that also has tactical battles as a big thing that they're calling out and putting, it seems like, a decent amount of effort into it. Kind of reminds me of, did any of you guys play Caesar 3 back in the day?
Oh, heck yeah.
Yes.
So like that was obviously, it was a Roman city builder, but then you'd have like barbarian tribes come around and you'd have to have like your own cohorts and legions to defend your city. I'm curious what this looks like, because the battles were always sort of a second, like an afterthought in Caesar 3, even though they were sort of the thing I was like, oh, this is awesome. I want to.
The battles in Caesar and Pharaoh were just straight up broken.
They were awful.
And that's kind of why the Pharaoh remaster, the recent one, they just ripped that out. They were like, this combat's crap. Which I don't know if I like that either, but yeah, I agree, it is always an afterthought.
I do think it makes sense for Manor Lords, given that presumably you're leading kind of a feudal medieval town. Like, kingdoms aren't the same in most of medieval Europe, right? Like, it's much more localized and provincial, and so you would have an element of you guys have to defend yourself in a way that wouldn't, you didn't have a big empire standing army in most of Europe. And there would be brigands and bands and things like that, especially if you're talking like between France and Germany, where you need to defend yourself against roaming heathens or whatever. So like, I think it makes sense to have the military aspect be a part of it. I hope it's well done. It looks good. I guess we'll see, but it wasn't on my list. It could have been. I am excited about it as well.
The city building aspect, even in the demo, was really enjoyed.
Yeah, it looks really in depth.
Yeah, it's another one of those things where when I see a game that this is like the demo, the pre-alpha, I mean, they're not anywhere near release, and it's something that I find pretty polished, I always take that as a very good sign. And now, in this day and age, you have a lot of games that are released, like their early access release is very raw, and not all games are equal, right? So they all release at a different actual state. Again, it's the same thing I said at the very beginning. I find that the trend is when a game releases at a better state, that their final product also ends up being much better.
It looks like Ostriv.
Yes.
It looks like Ostriv, but with combat.
Have you played Ostriv at all, Wolf?
No, I haven't. I've seen friends play it and stuff.
It's kind of a tough game. I think that's the one where they actually make the path based on where they travel, and that does not. You actually build the roads in Manor Lord, but the road building is very organic. I mean, organic was the word I was looking for. When you build a village and you see like the routes and all that, it's very easy to imagine, yeah, this is what, I mean, not that I know, but this is what I can pretend a real medieval village would have looked like. And that's always satisfying when you see something that matches. I mean, it's I don't know, when it's more believable, it's more satisfying to construct.
Absolutely.
Number 1 for Finnish, go.
Well, speaking of Civ games, my number 1 is going to be our History Untold.
Ooh, good one.
Yeah, so some of this dev team is from, I guess, Civ 5 or 6 or whatever number that they're on. It's being published by Microsoft, the Xbox Game Studios, which kind of worries me because they just like recently laid off like 2,000 people or whatever, and I think they're still trying to like reorganize their game studios because like they bought Bethesda or whatever. I don't know what's going on over there.
Yeah, there's some pretty big. Yeah, Microsoft's like kind of shifting gears from the whole Game Pass thing too. It seems like they're doing a lot of restructuring.
Yeah, so I'm confident this game will get released. I'm just kind of worried about when these big mega corporations buy game studios and stuff like that, and I don't know kind of like their overall vision for Xbox game studios is. But anyway, it's going to be a Civilization type game. It's going to be interesting because it has like simultaneous turn systems, so you're going to be playing your turn at the same time. I don't know if it's a WeGo system like you think of War of the Pacific, but it's going to be, I guess you're going to be like moving your units around at the same time, and then once it's done, the turn ends.
Is it turn-based? It's not like pausable real time?
It's turn-based.
Turn-based, yeah. Everyone plays their turn at the same time.
Have you played the latest like Civilization 5 or 6 with other people, Finnish?
Yeah, is it the same thing?
Yeah, where everyone can just move at the same time. Just speeds up. It's simultaneous turn processing. And the only bad thing about it is that if you're playing with an AI and they move all their units immediately, that you play at a disadvantage.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that they actually built in some delay to AI. But basically, it is a little bit Twitch-y. I don't know if they've addressed this in this ARA because I haven't looked at gameplay of it, but basically the first person to move to that mountain gets to claim it for their city if you have like 2 settlers in a race.
Sorry, I watched their like dev videos. I actually felt like I didn't learn a whole lot about their game from their like dev diary videos. I don't know. I'm just looking forward to what they'll create. Yeah, I'm just looking for something that's like more detailed than what you get from Civilization, the Civilization series. I want like more management, like more country management, more realistic, like historically accurate, like civilization development and human development, which I don't think we get from Civilization. And I guess at the moment I don't know if ARA will be like that, but based on what I know so far, I mean, it's the closest thing to my desires for a detailed Civ type game. So that's it. That's my number 1, ARA History Untold. Who's next? Is it Wolf?
I guess, yeah, it can be.
Wait, I didn't get to go.
Oh, yeah, I guess you go first. I'm sorry.
We're going out of order.
I don't even know what the order was. Was I last? I'm going to guess I know what yours is, Wolf, and I didn't want to get preempted because I was going to say it would be mine, but it's not because...
What is yours?
Seapower.
Okay, yeah, that is my number 1, but I have 2 honorable mentions that I would just want to quickly throw out there.
I don't know. I've said it before, but like Seapower is definitely the game that I'm most excited about. Kind of like a modern version of Fleet Command, but I think... Wolf, you probably have more interesting things to say about it.
I mean, not really. It's been on my list, number 1 or 2 for the past 3 years. 3 years
Yeah.
or so. But this year...
This is the year. This is our year.
This is it. I'm reading between those lines in the Microprose Discord, and I feel it, I feel it in my gut.
If it does not launch this year, I'm going to need to come back to that line in our episode next year and be like, so this is the year.
Yeah.
About that.
If this game is not released this year, I will eat my shorts. Okay.
He's got 2 pairs of shorts on the line,
Yeah, 2
But
pairs.
I didn't stop you before. Yeah, but this is dangerous.
I'm excited for like Task Force Admiral as well, but I do think Seapower is the closest to a release. Like, I mean, everything they're showing off, it looks really polished. They're play testing it and such. It has me optimistic for a 2024 release date. And yeah, I am quite excited to have a modern, naval warfare game. Lots of ships, looks fun. Looks pretty in-depth too, a lot more in-depth than I was expecting with all the electric systems and stuff. So
yeah, I think that'll be a good one.
what's your number 1, THG?
It was realistically it's Seapower. Like it's a game I've been, I think it was number 1 on my list like 3 years ago. But this is the year.
Well, and those devs have like, I believe that game is going to release and be pretty polished too. I don't know.
They certainly, and I'm not saying this in a negative sense, but they certainly have taken their time. Like if they were going to rush it out half-assed, like it feels like they would have done it already.
Well, they've taken their time. They've expanded their team, hiring modders who worked on Cold Waters mods like Dot Mod and such. It seems like they have a pretty like sizable team behind them, taking their time, polishing it, and making sure they get it right. And you know what? If that takes longer, that's fine. I'm okay with that.
Did they hire the mod who copied everybody else's mods and then made it?
No. No, we don't want to get into Cold Waters modder drama. All right, that's a separate episode.
I'll listen to that one. Yeah, I think I just could say Seapower is kind of just like, it's going to be like the Microprose like flagship game, you know, pun intended because it's a ship pun. But it's like that needs to succeed because I think like they're kind of like publishing a lot of like random games, and I think this is like their big thing, they're the big one that is going to set them apart. I think that's what they're gambling on.
I'd agree. I think it's that one in Task Force Admiral.
Task Force Admiral feels further away.
Yeah, I would agree with that, and that's why it's not on my list. If I did think Task Force Admiral was coming this year, I would put it on my list because, I mean, and even the videos they're putting out, like they put out a video showing off new sound effects and stuff, like during a torpedo attack. And it's like, dude, this is so immersive and awesome. Like, I can't wait to actually play that.
We're getting little crumbs, you know, and we want the full thing.
Yeah, like, and I get it. I'm glad they're taking their time to get it right instead of rushing it out where we get something kind of buggy. Like a particular other naval game, which we've all played.
Look, I just want to remind us though, we did have a discussion back in 2022 about whether Task Force Admiral would be released by Christmas. And like, look at us now. Now we don't even think it will be released by Christmas 2 years later.
You know what? They sing. You know, they take time. You know. You can't rush perfection, you know?
It's got to marinate, you know?
It does feel like more and more games are announced. Like, maybe this hasn't always been the case, but it didn't feel like it to me. Like, I feel like Wargames used to be, oh yeah, this is coming out next month. Like, you wouldn't hear about it, and maybe that was bad marketing. I don't know.
Oh my gosh, I have a whole thing. I wrote a whole monologue about this.
Yeah, I mean, well, I think it caught us, like, the case in point is, like, was it War on the Sea came like out of nowhere. It was like, what? Like this, oh, okay. But like this used to be a thing. I feel like where War Games they kind of just came out of nowhere, or you got a little bit of a notice, but it wasn't like 6 years before they're promoting something. Maybe you knew something was being worked on, but they weren't actively marketing. But it sure feels like the last couple of years, everybody's jumping to announce their new games.
Well,
way too early. Like by the time that like someone who hears about it is excited and they completely forget it exists before it comes out.
Well, I just think that we've seen that happen for a handful of games, but I don't think it's the norm. I just think that we're just singling out, you know, like
the ones we're most excited
Task
for.
Force Admiral. Yeah. I don't think this is the norm.
Well, and my counterpoint is Task Force Admiral specifically started off really small without Microprose as their publisher. They were picked up later and became one of these Microprose flagships. I mean, they were promoting ship model, like showing off their ship models and stuff. And that's fine as if like they're artists or developers, like showing off their work. I'm sure that keeps them motivated, and I don't know. It's kind of exciting to show off your stuff. I don't really mind that as much.
I don't know whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, but I actually did reflect on this for some time when thinking about the games that we get hyped about them. And what motivated this whole line of thought was I noticed I created different sections of notes for this. I actually did take notes, Wolf, and two of them I put already mentioned in previous podcasts, Task Force Admiral and Seapower, so I decided not to include them. And it made me think like, okay, I remember I'm not even excited for those releases at this point because they've sucked all the hype out of me. I still want them. I'm looking forward to them, but I couldn't be bothered to get up my chair and look at another video of those because they've wrung all of every drop of like anticipation that I have has already been wrung out of me. And it made me think like, I don't remember that ever happening when I was younger.
Baby, I'm still hyped.
I had my main releases like, there'd be like Civilization or Blizzard games and that you'd be really hyped about. But the way you would discover them was like, I just read monthly PC Gamer magazine. That's how I knew when new titles would be coming out. And I feel like sometimes in this day and age, we have so much access to information and there's so much marketing and all that, that I just feel overexposed and overhyped about everything, because every game wants to be the thing that you're waiting for, that you have on your wish list.
But I don't think that's good marketing. Like, I don't think...
And okay, that's the punchline, is that I think marketing sucks and is evil, and send your hate mail to thehistorical@gamer.com.
Okay, I work in marketing, so that's... My point is more, I don't think it's good marketing to start marketing so far in advance of having a finished product that you have essentially you get people excited, you create a critical mass, and then people forget about it. So you have to redo all the work that you did on the front end, except now you're not new and you're not like a brand new announcement. So you don't get the same buzz and the same coverage that you would have gotten if you hadn't announced it as early. I think that is a problem from a marketing strategy point of view. That's my 2 cents. There's obviously different fields of thought. Obviously, Microprose feels differently. Maybe it's because they need to get a certain amount of wish lists and then they can drive like investors. Like, that's the only thing that kind of in my head is like, are they using wish list numbers from these announcements to, you know, influence external funding or something? Like, maybe in that scenario, it helps make the game.
Well, I also gotta say, I think we're forgetting massive world-changing events that have probably set back these smaller developer teams more than, like, Bethesda, which even had to push their game back due to the pandemic and such. And then, like, Stalker 2, which is one of my honorable mentions. They're Ukrainian devs and their country gets invaded.
Wait, are you saying that that's an excuse?
Yeah, I can't say I'm too upset that they have pushed back their game multiple times. I mean, things come up.
Hey, listen, Tortuga hasn't given Ultimate Admiral any benefit of the doubt. They got Ukrainian devs.
Don't they have Starlink? Can't they code from the trenches?
Oh my gosh. I do know Stalker 2 devs have, like, I don't know, past fighting in Ukraine. So that is.
Oh, got it. Respect for them.
But yeah, that is one of my honorable mentions, by the way, is Stalker 2. I am very excited for that game.
That's good. Let's do some honorable mentions. Wait, you want to just go in a circle?
Yeah, sure. I'm going to go with mine. I'm just going to get them out of the way. Stalker 2, post-apocalyptic, set in the Chernobyl area. You guys all know Stalker. Cult classic, I'd say.
I've heard of Chernobyl.
Yep. That's an area.
It's an upstanding nuclear power plant.
Yeah, never failed. Never had any issues.
It is physically standing up, so that is true.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Story-driven, open world, depressed Slavic Fallout. That's a good way to describe it.
I have a question about Stalker 2. Do you think it'll be as like... So the original was a cult classic partly because it just had this, I don't know how to say it, this...
I think the atmosphere is really what kind of sold that game.
Yeah, but also the clunky UI and all that, it had its own charm in a way. Do you think this is going to be like a polished like Metro 2033 type game in the end?
I don't know. I'm still expecting jank, I'm going to be honest.
I actually almost think that's a good thing. It's part of the Stalker like legacy.
Yeah. I'm thinking more like flawed masterpiece is probably what Stalker 2 is going to be. You know,
very good.
I will say the gunplay looks pretty good, and if they allow mods, I want to mod it into a hardcore, like, gritty survival game. I mean, that's the kind of stuff I like. So I'm looking forward to that one. And then the second one, another survival game. I just have two. Another survival game set on the border. It's like an exclusion zone set between Finland and Russia, and it's called Road to Vostok. And it's made by one dev. They were working on Unity, and all that Unity drama went down, and they switched to Godot, I believe is what it's called.
Yeah.
They had a demo not too long ago. Like, everything they've been doing looks really impressive. The gunplay looks good. Single player as well. Another survival game.
My Summer Car meets DayZ in Russia.
Sure, yeah. Another depressed Slavic.
Hey, don't group Finland in with the Slavs, okay?
I'm noticing a trend, Wolf.
I love my...
He's a Slav at heart and his IL-2.
I don't know, I love the atmosphere.
I think the trend was every game you're looking for is depressing.
Hey, I like games that are difficult. I like games that are not necessarily, like, type B fun, I guess. To me, that's what's satisfying. Yeah, I'm looking forward to those. Those are my honorable mentions.
Tortuga, you're like kind of next in line on the...
All right, cool. I will do it. Kaiserpunk. It looks like a very interesting game. It's alt history, grand strategy, city builder. It's like World War I city builder. I don't know. I like the look of of the art style to it. I've seen them driving tanks around. And the fact that it's got that plus city building, I don't know what the game is, but it's an honorable mention for me. It's definitely one I'm going to keep my eye on. It's from the makers of Patron, by the way.
Sorry, I was going to ask if it was by the Frostpunk people.
No, yeah, it's different than Frostpunk, and I think this has a grand strategy element to it, and that you actually have like a grand strategy, like Hearthstone type map, and then you click into different areas and do city building. So maybe from that perspective, it's a little bit like, what's that fantasy game that I was kind of on about last time? Against the Storm. It's like roguelike in a way that, Against the Storm was roguelike in a way where you start multiple different bases, different places. This might be almost like that, where you have the strategic map where you're advancing your cities. Maybe there's combat where you have tanks fighting. Honestly, I can't say because I don't know that much about the game, but the art style and the fact you do city building and have tanks in the same thing piqued my interest.
Yeah, this looks interesting. Thank you for bringing it to my attention.
You are welcome. Thrive, Heavy Lies the Crown. That's the next game on my honorable mention. I think this one's going to be coming out pretty soon. At least I've seen some people playing it at this Next Fest demo on Steam right now. Or is it from that? Or anyways, it'll be launched as an early access game. It's another city builder. What the heck?
Yo, city builders.
I don't know why. Maybe these are the ones that just came up on when I was, looking around. But yeah, the demo is available. Probably it won't be by the time this goes out, this podcast. But I like when I can build defenses to my city. That always makes me happy when I have things attacking me. That's one of the things I did like about Caesar 3. I actually wasn't a big fan of that because the OCD, like how you have to get everything perfect to make that city function. But like anything where you can build walls and build towers to defense, like they are billions. It's like the perfect game.
Build wall kind of guy, huh?
Must really love Stronghold.
Yeah, I do. I really like Stronghold. And I guess another honorable mention for me, I'm not really sure. There's one called The Crust. Kind of looks like Surviving Mars meets like Factorio, but it's in like a future off-planet thing. If I wrote this down correctly, the game is just called The Crust.
Automate a lunar base. Hey, it's another city builder.
Oh my god, okay. No, somebody else, please.
Welcome to Single Malt City Builder.
Hey, I love city builders.
Did I already mention this? Dominion 6 was going to be my number 3, but it got yanked. I think it's basically Dominions 5 plus. So to me, it's kind of like what we were talking about with Rule the Waves. Not enough was done between 5 and 6 to make it a good release.
If you haven't played 5, is 6 worth? Like, would you pick up 6 if you haven't played 5?
So it depends on who you are. Dominions is extremely grognardy in the sense that it's like, it probably takes 20 hours to learn the game. It's insane. And it's not graphically appealing at all. It's got a lot of like Rule the Waves type jank to it. It's better than Rule the Waves as far as like gratifying graphics. It doesn't make you want to poke your eyes out. But yeah, you have to really appreciate huge depth in a spell tree. That's mainly what the game is about. I mean, it's a strategy game, turn-based. Anyway, Dominions, oh god. The depth in Dominions is like an ocean.
Distant Worlds with wizards?
No, I would say it's deeper than Distant Worlds. It's probably more comparable to Aurora 4X.
I used to hear on 3 Moves Ahead, Bruce Garrick used to talk about it a lot because I guess he wrote one of the manuals on one of the earlier ones, but I've never played any of the games in the series.
For anybody who's thinking about picking it up, if you end up getting it and you feel like you're drowning in the ocean, just play as Middle Age Ulm. They are like the one nation that you don't really have to learn the whole spell tree. You can get away with they have pretty powerful basic army units. So you can actually win the game just by building basic army units, which is great. So they're kind of a nice way of starting to dip your toe into the water. Okay, I'm just going to flash the other titles on this list because it's too long already. War Hospital, I've seen some
videos about that.
That was kind of interesting. Did you talk about that?
Yeah, I played it a little bit. It's interesting. You run, think the TV show MASH, right? Like you're running a hospital behind the front lines. Soldiers get sent to you. You've got to try and patch them up and send them back. You've got to sort of manage your camp, if you will, how soldiers, you have to triage them as they come in, which means you're going to pick some folks to die because you've got too many to actually take care of everybody. You've got to manage your doctor's stamina and fatigue level. You got to manage resources. When people die, you got to have them buried. You can send them back to the front lines. It does have this like weird element of when you send them back to the front, you can choose where to send them, which seems a little off for a hospital. But then you also like have to send a certain number back to the front lines directly in front of your hospital to make sure that a breakthrough doesn't happen. Like, I don't love that mechanic. That feels a little goofy where they're just like, oh, well, we need to have a combat element, so here. But overall, I think it's an interesting looking game, and I definitely want to play more of it.
It's set during like World War One or something, right?
Yes, World War.
Not like the Civil War.
World War One. Yep.
Civil War, hospital, just amputations.
Yeah, it'd be metal.
It's just weird because like I was not that far into the game, and then they're like, if you don't send at least 5 back to these trench lines, like the Germans will break through and take the hospital. I'm like, oh, okay.
Those 5 guys are going to stop them.
Yeah.
Send them a machine gun.
Those kind of games scale is always really kind of off, but
I think the gameplay loop for that is like they had to add something beyond just, okay, triage, operate, bury this dead body. So they added that kind of like tactical element almost. I don't know if tactical is strategy, but I agree with you that it seems a little, it doesn't really mesh with the rest of the gameplay. I'm just going to also throw out there that Frostpunk 2 and Homeworld 3 are being released this year. Those are both games that I'm keeping an eye on.
Wasn't Homeworld 3 pushed back?
The demo is available right now as well on this Next Fest for Steam, and people are complaining about it. So maybe they got negative feedback and decided to push it back.
I thought it was supposed to launch last year, but yeah, it's right now it's targeting May 13th for the release.
I mean, I loved the original Homeworld. That's one of the games with like the biggest emotional impact that I've ever played.
I'm excited about Frostpunk 2 personally. I was going to mention that on my list. I know you mentioned it. Just I never played Frostpunk 1, except I heard everybody talking about how great it was. I figured since I missed out on Frostpunk 1, with 2 coming out, that'll be, you know, the perfect time to jump in and give it a look. I guess it takes place 30 years after the previous one. Basically, you're like in a frozen wasteland and you got to manage your city. It's another city builder kind of. Where you've got to like manage your city and civilization to survive incredibly harsh elements. I think the thing that appeals the most to me is like the element of how moral are you going to be, right? Are you going to stick to your guns on what's right and wrong, or are you going to do what you need to do to survive, right? And then the impact on your people based on the decisions you make can cause problems and or whatnot. It looks really exciting, and I hope it pans out because the first one was really a hit. Like it was huge. It was everywhere in terms of like folks talking about it within the strategy space. Always a little nervous when a studio tries to follow that up, but I guess we'll see.
Yeah, I think it's worth at least keeping an eye on as far as titles to look forward to. I don't have any others, so that's what depletes my list. Finish, would you like to?
Sure. I just have one game on my honorable mentions. It's called Birth of Cultures. It's going to be like another civilization type game. I think there's been a lot less information released on it. I guess I would say just looking at the Steam page and the information available, I don't know if this will be a 2024 release, so we'll just kind of see. It looks like the game's kind of set. You're going to be doing like human development, like the birth of cultures, from kind of, I guess, the Neolithic period up till, I don't know, like the Roman period or something like that, or year zero. So it's not going to be like a full expansive civilization game. You go into the future.
You just go to the peak of human civilization. Makes sense.
That's right, yeah. Looking at the screenshots and stuff on Steam, the scope looks extremely large, and that kind of has me worried for a release of this year. So I guess you always worry about, you know, like some sort of mission creep or mission scope going off the rails or something. But I think it's something that I'm keeping an eye on. It's kind of like a wild card. If it's released this year, great. I'll check it out. If it's released in 2025 or 2026 or before Task Force Admiral, then we'll see what happens.
I didn't know about this, but I just opened it on the Steam page, and it does look very interesting. So thanks for mentioning this one.
That's it. And then THG, you're bringing up the rear. Bring us home with something good quality.
Okay, I got a couple. The first I would say is ICBM 2. I'm assuming that'll come out this year. I think it says it's going to.
Oh, is it?
We're all going to get nuked by Wolf.
No, you're going to get nuked by all of us after we all promise to not nuke you.
I'm mostly just going to gaslight THG again.
Yeah, so ICBM 2 or ICBM Escalation, it says coming soon, but I swear the trailer says, whoops. I think the trailer says 2024. Yes, it does.
Well, the trailer says it.
Well, I'm just saying, you know. Anyway, it does say 2024, and it's just, you know, it's the sequel to ICBM, which is, I personally think, really fun to play as a co-op game. Not really super interested in playing it single player, but, you know, just getting a group together and sort of build up your nuclear arsenals, and then you decide when to nuke each other. It does seem like there's also an expanded sort of tactical or conventional combat model, and they're adding more single player options for like a campaign and stuff. So I'm just curious to see how that'll play out. Just expanded tech trees and conventional options to kind of give you a bit more depth than just the simple, like, I built up a Merv and now I'm going to go ahead and use it. I'm interested to see how that'll play out. Not in my top 3, but certainly a game I've got my eyes on. Another one.
Before we move on, can we I just looked at it and it does look like there's a expanded amount of tactical combat. Do you feel like that's going to help the game? Because I almost feel like that works against the game's kind of beer and pretzels, like sit and shoot the shit, and then all of a sudden there's nukes going off type gameplay. So
what it says is that is another mode. There's still going to have the classic mode that we played in with ICBM 1. So I don't think it can hurt if you still have the beer and pretzels options if you want to add.
Okay, yeah, if it's not an either or, but an and both. Okay. Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Well, and I can see it making escalation like even more organic. Like, say you and your buddy are fighting and then one of you uses a tactical nuke.
And then the game's over, right? Like, basically.
And it kind of snowballs that way.
I hate when your buddy uses a tactical nuke.
Yeah, okay. Good point.
Well, like, you use a tactical nuke and then everyone's like, okay, let's calm down.
Well, because the button goes, right? Like, the second the first nuke goes, then, like, the game's countdown timer is on.
Well, we don't know if that's how this game's going to handle it.
No, well, that's what I'm saying. It's like, in the first one, it was kind of like, well, I guess it's the end game.
Yeah, we have to nuke each other. Yeah, I did not like that aspect.
So it'll be interesting to see. Like, it would be cool if you could play that line of, well, someone dropped a bomb, but do we really want it? Like, can we wait? Like, can we convince them? Maybe we can tamp it down and they'll realize they're not ready yet, and I'll get more time, right? Like, so it'd be cool if there was some element of that.
Yeah, there's like the nuke threshold. Once you hit that threshold, everyone just goes crazy. That's fine, but you know.
And there's just they're adding several other game modes. It looks like they're also adding kind of a more quick play game mode. Maybe if you don't have 2 hours to play through and you don't want to be the jerk who drops a nuke in the first 30 minutes. Like, it does sound like there's also sort of a quicker play mode too, which could be nice for picking up and playing, you know, faster if you're playing with friends and you don't have as much time. But another game I'm really interested to see how it plays out is Armored Brigade 2. I don't know if any of you guys played the first Armored Brigade.
What? You don't know if I did?
That's the one set in Finland, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, some of it.
I mean, I thought it was a lot in the NATO Gap or whatever it's called.
Fulda Gap.
Yeah, thank you.
It is Fulda Gap, but they also have a Finnish campaign. But yeah, they're making Armored Brigade 2. What's the best way to describe it? Kind of like Command and Conquer, or not Command and Conquer. Oh my God. Close combat-ish a little, with, you know, it's basically sort of a top-down looking game where you play through World War III type scenarios with a wide array of equipment. The first one wasn't very high fidelity. It was kind of like 2D images moving across the map. They did have a little bit of vehicle stuff modeled, but generally speaking, just kind of a real detailed tactical combat game that you played through, but it wasn't the prettiest looking type of a game. Maybe more accurate from a representation of what combat looked like than something like Warland, Air Land Battle. Oh my God, I'm having a stroke again. The Eugen games.
Wargames.
War game, yeah.
Yeah, war game, okay. But I think probably less visually appealing. Armored Brigade 2 looks like they're definitely going to try and be like, hey, this game has 3D tanks. And they're also really buffing up infantry so that it's not just a speed bump in these games and that like it plays more of a role. All the screenshots they're releasing on this, like, I'm impressed. I hope they lean more into the campaigns being a little less sandboxy like they did on some of the later DLCs for Armored Brigade 1. But I'm really excited to see what comes with this. It looks like they're also expanding the way that aircraft work and like provide support. So I think this is definitely on my list of games. Could have made my top 3.
Did you play the original?
Yeah, but I didn't find the campaigns super interesting. Again, they were too sandboxy. The Prague Spring one was much more like, here's a story that's going on, and I liked that.
Yeah, I agree. I think that this is actually a game which fits well with a campaign. You said close combat. I almost find this... I think it's trying to be pretty intense. Maybe almost like combat mission.
Yeah.
Don't they have like bullet counting and everything?
I guess. I mean, close combat had bullet counting too. It was a smaller scale. I think the scale on this is definitely bigger than close combat.
Yeah, but I mean, it has the top-down feel of... I remember the problem with the original was the terrain, man. It was impossible to tell, like, line of sight.
And if you look at like the topographical stuff, it looks pretty nice too on some of these screenshots.
Okay, that's good because that was a problem.
So I'm excited. You know, we'll see how it plays out. Again, I hope the campaigns they had originally were almost like Field of Glory, where it was like, hey, it's a campaign, a historical campaign or fiction, whatever. But then it was just like build your army with a certain number of points and go and fight. Like it was just not interesting to me. I want like give me a real order of battle, give me a story, give me an objective. Don't make me invent all that crap.
Yeah, I 100% agree. It always felt like to me that they had built like a skirmish type mode, and then they just were like, oh, what are we going to do for the main game? We'll just make it skirmish mode connected over multiple missions.
So definitely on the list, Armored Brigade 2. And then I would also say, like, this kind of came out of nowhere. I've got 2 DLCs I just want to quickly talk about. First off is the CK3 Chapter 3 DLC. Did any of you guys see what they're doing with that?
No.
Nope.
So they're actually doing a Byzantine-focused DLC, which, thank God, like, it's going to be a major expansion, adds a whole new, like, government-type, administrative government, really delving into the Byzantine Empire, because I think part of the major problem with the original game is just, like, that thing's too big, and with the game mechanics that they have, the thing snowballs out of control. And so, like, actually adding Empire-type mechanics into the game, I think will be a big win. They also are having a bunch of other stuff, but, like, apparently, like, they're going to have a Wandering Nobles DLC. So like different families can kind of pass through like the different, the different parts of the map, which sounds interesting. I don't know. The main one to me was the Byzantine expansion. That's the thing that really interests me the most. And then they've kind of got some just sort of adding on to some of the sort of role playing elements of it with like Legends of the Dead and whatnot. But really, to me, it's the Byzantine expansion has been the thing. Like that should have been like the first DLC they had because Empires felt broken. So I'm excited to see how tweaking Byzantium and perhaps making other Empires sort of core enhancements will maybe make me want to return to this game and play it again. And then the other one is Rizia, is Suzerain Rizia, which is another DLC, but that is an expansion to the Suzerain universe, which we've talked about on this channel multiple times in the past, where you are going to be sort of the leader of another country within the Suzerain universe, and you will be ruling basically kind of like a Saudi Arabia type country, an oil-rich country. It's a monarchy, it's not a democracy, but with like all the same storytelling elements, and they're also really buffing up the military side of things. So that should be a really interesting game. I think that comes out in March.
That'll be a good one.
I think it's going to be shorter than the base game, but again, I'm still really excited about it.
I never played the original, so maybe that'll be the kick I need to get both the base game and the DLC.
Yeah, March 25th is when Rizia is coming out.
Oh, it's coming up real quick.
Will that be before or after this episode is released?
Better be before, no, after. Better be after. Welcome to our June episode of our top games of 2026, whatever year it is.
2026. Oh my God.
You got to release this in June of 2025 then.
It is 2026 and Seapower is still not out, and it is our number one game again.
I was going to say, Seapower and Task Force Admiral might still be there.
Oh no. But yeah, that's all I got. Anybody else have anything else you guys want to talk about?
Nah.
How your lives doing? Anybody depressed? Anybody need a friend?
All right. Well, I'll see you guys later.
Okay.
Well, anyway, so that'll do it for that'll do it for our episode 83, our look at the year 2024 and the games that we are excited about that are coming out this year. I hope you guys did enjoy yet another episode of the Single Malt Strategy Podcast. On behalf of my co-hosts, Finnish, Wolf, and Tortuga, thank you all for coming on. And until next time, we're out.